Hi, I'm Mrs. Courtney. Welcome to 8th grade math. So here I am sitting in my virtual world teaching your students for the past few months, and so happy that we were finally able to come back into our real classroom, 3 weeks ago now. Here is my virtual living room. You can tell I'm a huge Detroit fan, and I enjoy a lot of fun, different activities outside the classroom, but what I enjoy the most is teaching math. So a little bit about myself. This is my 5th year here with District 105. I've been a math specialist floating around between Spring, 7th, and Hodgkin schools over the past 5 years. I also taught 6th grade accelerated last year, and this year I got double moved up to 8th grade math. Prior to being back in a school district, I did teach at North Central College, and I also taught at National Lewis, where I worked with undergrad and graduate students learning, well, they were learning how to be teachers, and I was teaching them how to teach math. My background in education itself is I went to Western Michigan University. I got my first master's at National Lewis in curriculum and instruction. I went on to get a math certificate as a math specialist, and I'm now working on another master's in principal leadership, because who doesn't love going to school all the time? Outside of education, I have a personal life, of course. I live in Downers Grove with my 3 children. I have a 10th grader at Downers Grove North. I have an 8th grade son who is at Herrick, and I have a 6th grade daughter who goes to Lester Elementary. We also have a COVID puppy named Scotia. And when I'm not teaching, I love to run, work out, travel with my family, be outside as much as possible, especially during all of this COVID time. Again, I am from Detroit, so I'm a huge sports fan, which makes living in Chicago interesting at times. I also coach when I'm not teaching, and I do have a travel basketball team right now that I have been coaching for 2 years. So a lot of fun stuff going on. All right, so let's get into why we're here for curriculum night. Here we have our D105 website, which I'm sure a lot of you are very fluid with going into and finding information that you need. Please look at those calendars frequently, as we know that changes are always a possibility. We have the PowerSchool link through the D105 website. PowerSchool is going to be your first place to go when it comes to looking at your students' grades. I would also suggest going ahead and uploading that PowerSchool app to your phone and having it on your students' phone so that they are able to always be in the know with where they are with their class. And so here is a picture of our classroom. What you'll notice is that I have here our desk shield, which the students have been so good at carrying around. They come in, they spray down the desk, they set themselves up, we spray down at the end of class, and they are just really great at following the rules, keeping those masks on, and keeping us all safe by keeping each of us safe. Our desks are spread apart. Here is a picture of my control center, as I might like to say. If you notice, I've got my computer screen, and then I have a second screen. I use that second screen to share with my students at home. I then annotate with an iPad for students in front of me and for students at home as I'm teaching my math lessons. So all students are expected to be with me every day, except for Wednesdays, as we go through those math lessons, whether they're Zooming in from home or whether they're in front of me sitting in a desk. All students are able to see that shared screen, and they're able to follow along with notes. And they're also able to ask questions, whether they are in front of me or if they're at home. So Questions usually lead to the Google Classroom. The Google Classroom is where your child is going to go first to answer any question from what's for homework, what are we studying, when's the next test. That can all be found in the Google Classroom. Here's an example of our home page. When they go into the Google Classroom and they click into math, they're going to always want to look at that classwork page, and they'll get to our weekly overview. Here is an example of that weekly overview. It'll have all of the assignments. Here is the live document that gets updated every weekend. So you can see that even if maybe a few weeks ago you realize that there's a 0 in PowerSchool, your student can take you through this math agenda, this weekly overview, and go to that date where maybe something is missing. They're able to make up that work and to change that 0 to a better grade. On Wednesdays, we have our asynchronous days. During those days, students have work that they can be doing. They are also able to check in with me if they need additional help or additional questions being answered. They are able to check in during academic support time on Wednesdays. Now, it has 10:35 to 11 a.m., but there are other opportunities as well. I would just ask that your student reaches out, preferably through an email, and we can find some time to work together. Again, all the grades are in PowerSchool, and I do recommend that app on the phone. It definitely is helpful to have those grades at our fingertips. Our textbook is the same textbook that you have seen over the past few years. Here's a picture of it. We do use the textbook for lessons. We do also pull resources from additional locations, so it's not always going to be coming from the math book, but this definitely is your go-to. Here I have a curriculum night handout that you would have received had we been able to meet in person, and you can go through this at a later time with your student and just look at that homework and classroom policies. Okay, so my classroom goals is that the students come in wanting to think critically about math, wanting to practice problem solving, thinking about how numbers sense and how we can look at numbers in that hands-on approach, meaning like real life connections to our curriculum. If we have students that are problem solvers, then we know that they are going to be very successful in their future lives. And again, our daily classwork that they're working on can always be found in that weekly overview. Our 8th grade math is made up of 6 units. They're here. We are finishing up Unit 1 right now, and we're beginning Unit 2 next week on linear relationships with slope and slope-intercept form. So super excited to get into that unit soon. I also have a link here for your Common Core Math Standards, always some fun reading. Our units are made up of, well, normally we would see a pretest, but in these COVID times, we have taken those pretests out of the equation. We just have our post-tests. We look at those essential questions around the content. We really aren't able to do too much goal setting with the reduced minutes of student interaction, but we definitely can be talking about what goals they have for themselves. You will see formative and summative assessments in the form of quizzes and or tests, and then we'll spend some time reflecting on our learning before going forward. How can you help your student at home? Number 1, right here, encourage them to read the textbook. So many times our students don't read the textbook. So knowing that the textbook is there as a resource for them can be very helpful. Just checking in with your student when it comes to their homework and their practice, and reminding them to look at the time, spend time doing the work, but also I'd rather not have them spend time where they're feeling very down about their time that they're using. I would say no more than a half an hour would be perfect for the homework that's being sent home. Usually you won't see many more than 10 problems per homework assignment, but encourage them to persevere, to try through problems that are difficult, and then to at least attack each problem, give it a go, see what happens, and then know that if we don't understand the answer, that would be something to indicate to me on the next day as they're coming into class. Here's our breakdown of our grading system. So we see 60% comes out of our assessments, and then we have our 60% being tests, 25 from quizzes, and 15 from the homework. Let me go back to this, including our ALEX. So every week, the students are asked to do 10 topics in ALEX. So know that they can always have something to do. If you're looking for them to get some extra practice, that ALEX is there for them to get that extra practice. We will be having MAP testing later on this trimester. So just know that that is in the calendar in the weeks to come. Okay, so thank you so much for listening and taking time to watch this. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me through an email. I'm also more than happy to give a phone call and to talk through any concerns or questions that you might have. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you and enjoy the rest of your videos.